Yes, sir.
What was your favourite book you read?
My favourite book that I wrote, you know, all of my books are my favourite, every single one. Because I succeeded. I achieved something. You know, before I became a writer, I was living out of a car at one stage. My life was pretty dark. I was living out of a car. I was going from job to job, and my life wasn't looking too good. I didn't have any support from my family. Like I said, I haven't been a very constructive family, so to speak. So to have books published, that was a huge achievement for me. And then you go into the bookstore, and you see your book sitting there. And if it's at the back, reach over, grab it, and you put it to the front. So put it right out there. And then sometimes I would run out, so I'd have to buy one myself. So I'd go to a bookstore and I'd grab the book. I'd go up to the counter, I'd like to buy this book, please. And then I'd say, really good writer, that guy, really good. So yeah, so it's wonderful. And then you come to schools and you hear about people enjoying, get this. I recently received questions from children in Israel who had been reading this story in their class and loved it, and loved the whole message of the non-violent stuff and preventing bullying and stuff like this. And so that's from Israel. You know, so it's like, wow, this book's come all the way over there. It's tremendous. And this one won an award in Germany. I don't know what German people think of Tanifa is, but nonetheless. Yes, sir.
Did you get inspired by another writer?
I loved reading when I was a kid, so writers like Roald Dahl, you know, people like Joy Cowley, of course, Margaret Martin, people like that have always been an inspiration to me. I didn't think that I could get there myself though. If anybody inspired me when I was a child, it would be my teacher. The ones that were nice to me, they were the ones that inspired me. I remember my teacher, she got really frustrated one day and she comes into the class and says, right, boys, I don't want any more stories about tanks and guns and da-da-da-da-da. I don't want it. Write me something else. She went to the girls and she said, girls, I don't care about marshmallow trees and lemonade rivers and fairylands. Give me something else. So I liked this teacher. I was only 10 years old, but I wanted to marry her. She was young, she was beautiful, I was in love with her, so I wanted to impress her. It's a bit of a pattern here. So I wrote a story that I thought she'd really like, and it was about a man just going for a walk in the park. Nothing else happened. It just talked about what he saw. He saw families together, he saw people feeding ducks, he saw a pond and trees and flowers. That was all. Nothing else happened in the story. It was a short story about a man's walk in the park. And it worked. And my teacher loved that, and my story got taken around the whole school as an example of good writing. So that was very inspiring. That told me, hey man, I've got something to offer. I've written 9 books, and the 10th one is on its way. So I'm looking forward to that. But I'm still working hard on that at the moment. So many questions. Yes, ma'am. Yes, yes.
Do you know what it's called?
Still working on the title. Not giving anything away just yet. I'm not giving it away. Touch wood, you know. It's not published first. You've got to get it all sorted out. So you never know what happens sometimes. People say, oh, you know, we won't do it this year, we'll do it next year, stuff like that. So you always just take it easy. Get used to rejection with writing. If you want to be a writer, you've got to get used to rejection. Rejection is just something that happens when you're succeeding, when you're trying to succeed. It's just something that comes along. Now, I was rejected heaps. Now, when I first got this book published, I was a writer. I thought all I needed to do was touch the page and it will turn to gold. So I wrote heaps and heaps of stories. Lots of stories. And I sent them all off to the publishers. And all of them came back. The piece is saying, rejected, rejected, rejected. And of course I was devastated. Oh, what do you know? I'm a great writer. You know, and I was very rejected. But I got used to that. And the thing was, since I had done it once, I knew that I could do it again. So I kept going. And I got to it. So the rejection is just part of it. You just go with it. Not very nice. I went to a stage where I would get the letter and I'd stand at the rubbish bin. And I just ripped it open a bit and then I'd just peek in. We are sorry to inform you that your story's been rejected. That's it, I'll just read it. You know, but the thing is, I didn't give up.
Did anyone inspire from those stories?
You know, Warrior Kids, that takes me to Warrior Kids. Warrior Kids I created that because nothing else was like that in the community. Now, when I was growing up, I was looking for help. I went to a lot of places to look for help. I went to the school guidance counsellor at high school. That was a very interesting experience, to say the least. So I go in to see the school counsellor. Now, his job is to help me. So, there's chairs in there, and I'd sit down on my chair, and I needed help. I knew I needed help. I was angry, I was sad, I was scared, and no one was showing me how to deal with that. No one was talking about it. The school were not helping me. I needed help. When I went to high school, actually, when I left high school, wow, to tell you the truth, I was kicked out of high school. But that's because they couldn't handle me, what was going on in my life. I reached out for help from them. A little bit later, they kicked me out. Now, the thing was, when I left high school, I didn't know my times tables. I couldn't tell you the alphabet from A to Z. And I couldn't tell the time on analog clocks, you know, the clocks with the hands. So I was a little delayed, you might say. I had had a lot of time off school. One time, my family, they kept me home to paint the house. Then, paint the fence. Then fix the fences. We lived on a farm, so that was a huge job. My school rings up one day. I'm the only one home. I'm having lunch. I'm doing all the painting. The school rings up. I answer the phone. Hello. The school says, blah, blah, blah. This is so-and-so from Kaipara College. We just want you to know if Tipene is still attending school. I just stand there and I think, I don't know. I said, I actually don't know. I'll have to ask my dad if I'm attending school. You know, is that crazy? So then my dad comes home and I said, oh, the school ring, they want to know if I'm still going to school. My dad goes, well, you better go to school tomorrow. You know, they didn't really care with my education, so I went to school the next day. So that's where you can see why the school in the end was saying, well, you know, you better go. So anyway, I went to the school. So at school, I was in special classes for everything, right from the start. Right when I started school, I was in special class for saying TH. I couldn't say TH properly. So I had to go to a specialist lady, one of the ladies that I had to see. I would sit in front of her, and she would be there, this, that, then. Repeat after me, Timothy, repeat after me. This, that. No, it's not the F sound. So I did get there in the end with that. But yeah, so I was in special classes for everything. So anyway, at high school I went to a school counsellor. So I'm sitting in there, now I'm a teenage boy. That's awkward enough as it is. So I'm sitting there. Now my school counsellor, he starts trying to talk to me, you know, we're talking about. He stands up. He goes into the middle of the floor and he lays down on the floor. I'm feeling really uncomfortable. And then he taps the floor and he says, you can join me if you like. No, I'm all right, thank you. And he says, I like to lay down like this sometimes. It helps me to think about my problems. I'm not laying down on the floor. Then, you know what he does? He turns over and he curls up into a little ball like this and he starts crying. I'm sitting there and I'm looking at him, what's going on here? And he says, my wife has left me. I've come to him for help. And I'm thinking, who is counselling who? I'm not the counsellor. So that was it. That was my school counsellor. His wife had just left him and he was very upset about that. That didn't help me, of course, did it? No. Goodness me. I was going home to all this violence and stuff at home. My family was crazy at that time. They were just nuts. That was very scary.